yourself in the chat if you are online or on an app. If you're on the phone, you're welcome to introduce yourself if you haven't already. And if everyone could keep yourselves muted until it's time for you to speak, that'll help us minimize the background noise. So for people online or on the app, the mute button is the little microphone icon on your controls bar. For people on the phone, you may need to use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. So thank you all so much for joining. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. I know a lot of us are doing many of these sort of video chat and conference calls lately, so thanks for making time for yet another one. My name's Ellen Bruenderman. I work for Park Pride. I'm the Director of Community Building. Park Pride is one of your hosts today. So I'm going to do a little bit of just sort of guidance and guidelines and logistics real quick before we get going. So hopefully you've discovered your controls bar if you're online or on the app, but if you haven't, you can see it on this slide here. For those of you on the phone, we do have a couple visuals. I'm going to try to make sure everything is also spoken verbally to you if it's important information. For those looking at the screen, you can see the controls bar here. It's that black bar at the bottom of your screen. The chat icon is circled. It's that little speech bubble. You've also got your mute icon, the little microphone, so you can mute and unmute yourself. The other important one to look at is the participants icon. That's the two people. When you click on that, you can see everyone who's participating, and also at the bottom of that window, you can see a raised hand button. So we'll be using the raise your hand feature. So you can use that to raise and lower. If you have any trouble, please direct chat Kayla. If you pull up the chat window, you can see there's a two-line. You can chat everyone, or you can pick a specific person. So Kayla's going to be kind of doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes controls on Zoom, so she can help you troubleshoot if needed. Just direct chat her. And I'll also repeat again, if you would like to receive a direct follow-up message via email from this listening session, you can direct chat Kayla with your preferred email address. So please go ahead and do that. We hope you're all doing well. I think I speak on behalf of all of our hosts, Park Pride, AgLanta, and Foodwell Alliance, in saying that we really hope that you're staying safe and feeling well, and that your family members and your communities are doing so as well. We know a lot of people are experiencing a lot of different challenges right now, so we hope wherever you are that you're doing as well as you can, and that this time is helpful for you. I think it will certainly be helpful for us in figuring out how we can, continue to support this specific group of people. All right, so Kayla, if you can take us to the next slide. I think we're ready for that. Lovely. So I'm just going to go through briefly, especially for those on the phone, what our kind of plan is for this call. So we're going to hear from each of our host organizations just briefly about what the work they do and why they are participating in this listening session today. Then we're going to open up the discussion to all of you participants. We just want to hear, what's happening with you and your gardens and how we can help you. At the end, right after that, we'll have time for question and answer specifically for the host organizations. So if you have those questions, try to wait until that Q&A period. Then we'll close out with a couple of resources and upcoming opportunities for you. We'll let you get on with your day. All right, Kayla, take us to the next slide. So who are our hosts today? So you've heard from me already. I'm Ellen Bruenderman. I'm Director of Community Building at Park Pride. You can see me on the right of your screen if you are watching the visuals. And I will let Kayla introduce herself. She is on the left of your screen. I'm on the right.
Hi, this is Kayla. I work with Ellen for the community building team on Friends of the Park and Adopt a Park and Community Gardens.
Lovely. So just a little bit about Park Pride. If you're not familiar with us, we are a local nonprofit. We support community-driven park stewardship. So primarily we work through what we call Friends of the Park groups. We support them with a lot of different programs and services. to engage in improving and taking care of their local parks. So one of the ways we help people engage in their local parks is to help them establish community gardens in City of Atlanta parks. So we help them work through that process with the Parks Department, make sure they understand all the approvals and sort of guide that to establishment. And then for established gardens, we provide a lot of different resources. Often they are resources that are from our two co-hosts. And we also generally can provide tool lending and volunteer support. That is on hold currently for the safety of volunteers and staff. And lastly, we have matching grants that our garden groups are also eligible for. So now I would like to hear from our next host, Foodwell Alliance, Fred and Kim, if you want to introduce yourselves. Kayla, you may need to unmute them.
Well, there we go. I got it.
Lovely.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kim. I am the director of Foodwell Alliance. It's also my birthday, so really, really excited to be with everybody. I can't wait to spread the screen and see all your faces. You know, Foodwell Alliance, if those of you are new to us, we really, our main line of work is to make sure that urban farms and community gardens have the resources they need to thrive. And we support our Metro Atlanta 5-county region in doing that. And under normal circumstances, we mobilize resources through our resource center. And this is typically through our direct grant making. We have a volunteer program. We support community gardens with mechanical and technical assistance. We have workshops and access to tools as well. And I think, you know, we're assessing how does Foodwell Alliance support our community gardens across the Metro Atlanta region right now more than ever. I think what we're learning is that, you know, communities and the public, and certainly our families and those around us really are starting to see and recognize that local food and producing food in our neighborhoods right now is an opportunity for resilience. It's an opportunity for strength to come together to do that. But the question for us is, how can we do that and encourage gardeners to do that safely? And is there a way for us to provide resources now and, you know, during this time where we have this opportunity to continue to plant during spring? So I'm going to let Fred kind of speak about our community garden program. And we're going to talk later about how we can be of service to those gardens in the Metro Atlanta region to make sure that you have what you need to get plants in the ground if you so choose to. You have the safety equipment that you need, and we are answering questions that you may have of how to lead your gardens during this time. So Fred, do you want to share a little bit about the garden program and what you all are doing?
Sure, thank you. Our program is mostly about supporting autonomous community gardens. So we spend most of our time providing volunteer support. We have a very large volunteer program, and the volunteer program has a lot of value to the greater public in that it allows people who are interested in local food but don't have the opportunity, you know, to do it, don't have the time commitment to have their own plot or something, a chance to engage, to help, to be part of the movement without taking on such a big responsibility as a community garden on their own. We also provide mechanical support, plowing, tilling, that kind of stuff. Anything that that the community gardens use that we can hit with volunteers and machines. We try to make that support available so that the gardens can focus on the hard work of community building. And I have to say that, you know, all these years we've been doing community gardening, you know, it's mostly about the community part. It's really the community engagement piece is the defining characteristic of community gardening. And this COVID-19 presents some particular challenges for community gardens. You know, if you can't bring the membership together and have people building relationships with each other, it's very hard to cooperatively manage the garden and work your plot in a vacuum, sort of. It just makes the whole process more challenging. And I'm interested to hear what everybody has to say, how they're dealing with it.
So now I'd like to hear from our other co-hosts, AgLanta, Maurice and Elizabeth, if you want to introduce yourselves. Kayla, I don't know if you need to unmute them or if they can do that themselves. And then you can go to the next slide as well.
How about now?
Yes, Elizabeth is also unmuted.
Maurice, do you want to go first?
Sure, thanks, E. Hi, everybody. It's Maurice Small with the AgLanta program and Groundwork Atlanta. Happy to be with y'all. Kind of cold outside. The sun is shining, but we are still getting work done in our community gardens and our farms. We aim to up our production this year simply because it's the right thing to do. We aim also to make sure that our soils are healthy by composting and putting on as much mulch as we can to conserve our moisture and feed our soil organisms. And I'll pass it off to E.
Thanks, Maurice, and thanks everybody for being here today. My name's Elizabeth. I'm part of the AgLanta team. I work out of the Department of City Planning at City of Atlanta. I serve as a food systems planner. Our goal at the city is really to ensure that 85% of Atlanta residents will be within a half mile to a fresh, affordable food access point by 2022. And we just really, really value the incredible work of every single person who is on this call today. And we really look forward to listening to you today and learning what your challenges are, what the opportunities could be for all of us who are on this call together to work together to really make sure that the work that you're doing thrives and answer questions and help with everything from policy to infrastructure to land access with everybody on the call today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for taking the time. So we've talked a lot and now we're ready to listen to you. So we're going to move into an open discussion. And again, we're looking to hear really what's going on the ground in your gardens with your groups. We have a couple of prompts that are on the next slide.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, hello?
Hello? Hello? Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, hello, hello. Okay.
Sir, I can hear you all.
Are you taking questions yet or later?
Hello, this is Haleen. Can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead, Haleen.
Huh? Is everybody hearing me?
Yes.
Yes.
We hear you.
Yes.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Well, happy birthday to Kim. That's the first thing I want to say. And mine was last week, so happy birthday to me too. So, thank you. So, I am planting and I'm doing hibiscus sorrel and ginger. And I have been registered as a part of the CFN to be in the program to sell my teas, my herbal teas. Congratulations to me. My family members had come together and purchased, well, not purchased fully, but credited a brand new Toyota Tacoma pickup truck with the ball on the back, so I can put a carriage on there to haul plants and juices and so on. So I'm putting the word out there that I now have a truck, which is the community urban garden on wheels. I will drive it or get help to drive it if anybody is in need of hiring my services to deliver things in the Metro Atlanta, maybe within a 5-mile radius around town. And I'm inviting everyone to purchase or order teas and soup from the community farmers market. I'll deliver it to them over at the common market, and I am hoping that this program will be successful. And so that's what I want to say. I am planting, and I could use a lot of volunteer help, and I could use some more seedlings and so on. And I'll try to call the tool bank to rent some tools, and as much help that I can get, maybe 4 or 5 people to help me from time to time. I'd appreciate it. I am also raising chickens, so I have chickens and eggs. And I guess that's the story, a little bit of my story for now. And people know my telephone number and my email, and they can contact me. And my Instagram is ATL Garden Queen. ATL Garden Queen, Instagram. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to say that Rosario just joined in.
Hi, Rosario. And Ellen's back too. I lost internet, but I'm back.
Oh, hi, Ellen.
Hello.
Okay. Can you take another question?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Hi, it's Dave Sigler from the Blackburn Community Garden over in Brookhaven. Things are off to a great start this season, and we've got things are really going off in a really good direction. 2 things I wanted to just say, and maybe to spark some conversation and maybe some answers I don't know. One is we have the first Saturday of every month we schedule for all the garden members to come, and we basically break it up about an hour of a talk and some topics and such, and then an hour of work and cleanup and things. One of the things with the social distancing that is becoming a challenge is trying to get some guest speakers, people to come, and we really try to take it as an educational effort for people to learn more about growing and gardening. That's become a problem, and so seeking any sort of any thoughts or what others are doing. The other part of it too is, while it's a little bit early in the season, a lot of the local community food banks are closed and not making distributions. So as things start to come in and we harvest over the next few months, another thing to try to put some thought against is how can we distribute and contribute to food banks with local produce to assure that it gets out to the need. That's all.
Does anyone have a response to Dave before we move to another topic?
Hey, this is Tim from Gwinnett County. You mentioned something about programs, educational programs. With Extension, we've been doing a lot with Zoom conferencing. We can do that. We can actually, potentially have a program in a community garden as long as people are social distancing. Those are just a couple of ideas I have, and I'd be willing to help out.
Great, thank you.
That's wonderful. Anybody else before we move to the next topic?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for joining late. This again, Rosario from Historic Westside Gardens. What was the topic at hand so I could catch up?
Yeah, thanks.
And I apologize.
Yeah, it's ways to have educational discussions at our garden meetings, guest speakers, and so that's a problem with the social distancing now.
Okay, I understand you. I would say that at our garden, some of the growers are still coming. We do a lot of home gardens. And we just beforehand let them know that we're coming. We're bringing the seedling soil and whatever for them to have their gloves, a way of washing their hands, a way of sanitizing the tools. And we just kind of like not get too close for comfort, but still we understand that if someone does not allow us in their space and they're careful, that's okay. At the same time, we want to make sure that they're not sick in any way. So we do have to ask up front, have you been ill? Anyone in your home? You know, so that we can keep ourselves safe. We're following safe practices, carrying, you know, everything we need to sanitize after we finish a garden, and we move on to the next. Our main problem has also been volunteers, because we get a lot of volunteers in the 3 agricultural hubs that we manage. And so we're having to kind of like just try to do it all ourselves. And I don't blame volunteers for not wanting to come out. I know FoodWell is going to help us a little, somewhat with some of the cleaning up. So that's a good thing. But yeah, folks still want to grow their food. Now more than ever, there's an urgency to get started and let's throw seeds in the ground. So we're trying to be as safe as possible, because we're still out there doing what we do. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosario. It is that time of year. So I have hands raised from Gary and Assad. I'm going to move to those. Gary, do you want to let us know why you raised your hand?
Yeah, so I just want to let y'all know like what we're doing. We basically started up a like we're a very new organization in Home Park, where we're just like we've broken ground like in the past 2 weeks, and we're continuing to break ground on you know, different plots. A few things that we're like a few challenges that we're facing is like irrigation, like how to get water to the plots, because a lot of the houses that we're like, you know, the houses don't have what do you call it, like the taps, and so that's been a bit of a challenge. And we've been doing like really primitive stuff to like water plants, like just filling up a bucket and doing like a gravity pump basically. So that's just like you know, I'd like support, I guess, and like I guess knowledge on how we can like better face and overcome that kind of challenge.
My tablet,
and
so I can see.
yeah,
I finally got it going now.
Gary, you had your hand raised. Did you want to add something? I don't know if his audio is working. Saad, can you remind us where what your organization or your group is and where you are?
yeah, we're like the Home Park collective. We go by many different names. We're trying to figure out what it is, but like we're very newly started up. It's just like a bunch of communists in Home Park. You know, we're just breaking ground on different plots of land in Home Park, like mostly in yards that we got permission from our landlords to garden in. And something we want to explore is like reclamation of like unused land, like you know, empty plots basically, and like how we can go about doing that without like facing legal issues, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for joining us. Erica, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Erica Holloman Hill with the West Atlanta Watershed Alliance at the Outdoor Activity Center in the Hartnett, Bush Mountain, Okie City Community Garden. I have a question regarding communication between parks, and if anyone on this line can assist us. Prior to the COVID crisis, we were in communication regarding irrigation. There is a water meter that is up there. We've already identified it. We've already cleared up the fact that it is with parks. We were in the process of, or they were in the process of securing someone to actually dig the irrigation line so that we could have finally running water to start in the community garden project, but for a long-term vision of the baseball field with some other ideas with Lilo. So I was just wondering if anyone has had any further communication with someone in parks as it relates to community gardens and getting essential services like water and irrigation kind of restarted. I've emailed Simon, I believe his name is, I don't remember. I forget the other young gentleman's name right now. So just any assistance in kind of picking that back up and moving that forward will be really, really essential for us, because we don't have a source of water up there right now. We've been using one of the neighbors graciously with their own water hose. And so that would be of great assistance to us, considering that we just put in 5 in-ground plots. Shout out to Mike McCord of the Oakland City Garden Coordinator. This is definitely a multi-communal effort of a lot of folks right in the Bush Mountain, Oakland City area. And so grateful to be a part of this and to have this expansion within Wawa's organization now, to have someone to regularly attend and to be of service of this land.
Thanks, Erica. Does anyone have a response for Erica, especially on working?
Okay.
If you aren't speaking, again, please keep yourself on mute by pressing the mute button, or you may need to do *6 if you're on your phone. So the floor is still open for anyone to respond to Erica. So Erica, I will say, at least from the Park Pride side of things, that I have not heard anything specifically from the Parks Department about community gardens, but that is something that we are working on getting information from them about. So I think we are hopefully going to have a call within the next week, and that is on the list of topics to get some clarity on. I imagine with any new projects, those are either halted or delayed given the situation, but as soon as we get information about that, I will make sure that you get it.
Yeah, thank you. So the project could potentially start prior to, and I understand that it could be definitely halted, but I know that they're still doing the essential kind of service in part.
They are, yes, and I know they are continuing with some projects, so I will ask specifically about your garden project.
Thank you.
So we have a hand raised from G8 Think with a Q. That's how you show up in our participants list. Hopefully that, okay, good. Go ahead.
This is Wazette, and I'm Friends of the Forest, Food Forest. And I want to ask a question because we're getting ready to start a new growing program. And I was trying to find out where we could possibly find some donated plants or seeds to get started. Also, we're working in partnership with others in partnership to start doing some residential gardening as well, or raised gardens. And we'll be working also with the faith community. So I was trying to find out if there's anywhere we can get some extra plants or seedings, soil, anything. We did get a package from Food Wellness from Fred the other day, but we're asking for some more.
Does anybody know where they might be able to get some extra plants or seeds?
We do have some funding coming, but it won't be here to June. But when we do have some seeds, but we're just asking for more. Our funding will be will continue in spite of the virus. And matter of fact, we have several that's going to continue instead. We'll be doing a training program virtually, and we have interns that'll be working with us virtually, but we also will have some staff starting in June.
This is Rosario. I'm sorry I've been so busy, but anyway, I haven't gotten back to you. But I know that I would take our paperwork, our 501c3 document to Home Depot, and they would always give us, like, quarterly a $50 voucher to buy $50 towards the purchase of seeds or plants. And $50 if you're buying seeds goes a pretty long way. So if you need empty trays or containers to start the seedlings on, I have a lot of that available. We do serve a lot of families, so currently I don't have any extra seedlings, but I will look and see what I can get, what I can start in our greenhouse so that we're able to contribute to you once you start putting those gardens in. But check and see if Home Depot is still doing that, because quarterly they would give us a $50, you just take $50 off of whatever you buy. And all I would do is go to customer service with my 501c3 paperwork, and usually got approved right there. So maybe look into that, because I'm sure Lowe's has a similar program, but they weren't as user-friendly as Home Depot is.
Okay. Well, we're used to doing that, and we were just able to yesterday give out almost $3,000 in gift cards for about 300 families. We gave $100 each. So we're still working in spite of the virus to make sure our families get what they need from a holistic approach. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Suzette, for that question. And you're welcome to type that into the chat as well, just so that we have a written record of it. So if we do come across resources, we know who to direct them to.
All right.
So I don't have any hands raised. If you have something to update us on, or if you have a question to ask of the other participants, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. And hosts, if you have a prompt question that you're interested in hearing more about, please feel free to jump in and ask.
This is Kim. I guess I'm curious. I don't know how we get an answer from everyone at the same time, but if you're on this call, we're assuming you are continuing to grow food. You're continuing to garden. I'm seeing head nods.
Yes.
But we've had to figure out what are those safety protocols, and it sounds like social distancing is the obvious. Does anyone have any guidance on, cleaning tools or hand washing or other strategies you're taking in your garden so that we can help other gardens who are thinking about opening, but not everyone feels as comfortable growing together? So I'm curious from everyone here what their strategies are around safely growing together.
So someone who shows up as Yarrow has their hand raised. Is that for this question?
Yes, I was just going to respond to Kim's question. Hi, everybody. I'm Yarrow Koning with Global Growers Network. I can share a little bit of some of the protocol we've been doing in our garden sites. All of our gardens are in DeKalb County, and we primarily work with refugee families. So we have some additional challenges around language barriers in our garden sites. So yes, we're encouraging all growers to practice social distancing out in the gardens. We have installed hand wash stations at the entrances to all of our gardens with signage that's translated into relevant languages on how to use those hand wash stations, because they look a little different than your standard like kitchen sink. We do have that resource available on how to make those hand wash stations. If you're interested in using our model, that's something that I can be sent out with resources after this. I'll drop it in the chat. We have chosen, it was a really hard decision, but we have chosen for now to not have shared tool access in our garden sites. It was just too much of a challenge to make sure that every single person was sanitizing tools every single time. So we've temporarily closed all of our shared tools and have requested growers to bring their own tools and gloves to and from the garden sites. We are providing a little bit of support for folks if they don't have their own tools and can't afford them. They know that they can reach out to me and we'll help get them the basics to get through the growing season. We also had to contact all our growers around their tech access to make sure they were getting our messages. We've closed off all shared seating areas. Picnic tables have been removed or turned upside down or marked as unusable. We've closed produce washing stations and are encouraging people to just come to the garden, do what they got to do, and go home. And we've moved all of our education through video trainings that we're doing on YouTube. So we're trying to keep the community piece going, but really not in the gardens.
Yarrow, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assad, did you have something to add to this discussion?
Yeah, so what we've been doing is we just like limit how many people can like show up at a time to like 4, and you know, we just like wear masks, gloves, you know, the PPE, and just like wipe down the tools like before and afterwards. And you know, we just think that like just limiting how many people can be like in an area at once is like probably the best way to go about doing it, especially because we're like breaking ground right now, and so like it's like very labor intensive. Like doing it one person at a time is like pretty impractical. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Rosario. Yeah, we carry around like a hand washing station made out of a 5-gallon bucket. I actually did a little Instagram video yesterday on how we make them, and we just clean it out every day and carry it with us everywhere we go, so that we could wash our hands. I carry like spray bottles of alcohol, paper towels to wipe everything down after we spray it down so that we could wipe down our tools. And we always wash our hands before we sanitize them. We have our masks and gloves, disposable gloves, because we're so used to using the same gloves over and over again, that it's kind of like challenging to remember. You got to change the gloves every single time. So I finally got a big box of disposable gloves so that we can just change our gloves every time we go from one item to the next. But you know, like I said, people want to start their gardens, and just that social distancing part is the most important, and keeping everything clean. But we want to keep on going with what we're doing, and yeah. We're still doing a lot of face-to-face stuff, just not that close.
Saad, did you have something to add?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'll lower my hand.
Okay, yeah, your hand's raised. Who else has something to add to this? What safety measures are you taking? Or are you continuing to go? I think, you know, it's fair to assume that some garden groups may decide that the risk isn't worth it or the interest isn't there. Is anybody experiencing anything like that?
I haven't seen that the interest is not there. Again, places that we're not allowed to go in, like where our seniors live, or you know, apartment complexes where we have gardens and they're not allowing us in. The residents want us to come, but you know, but we can't at this time. Eventually we will, but right now we can't. So the interest is there, and now more than ever, people want to grow their own food because they see that even when they receive little care packages, it's mainly canned food, and they don't want canned food. They want to grow their own organic produce. So the desire to grow is still there, maybe more now than ever.
It's great to hear.
This is Marvin Henderson with the Greatest. I actually went by the garden a few minutes ago, and we got stuff coming up. It's looking real good, but a lot of people stop by as we work out there and have interest in joining for this year. We're seeing a lot of people are interested in coming see how they can join us in working in our community garden. As far as how safety is concerned, we do the as the others, we just practice bring your own tools, use your own gloves, and we schedule time that a person might go do a certain thing where everybody don't have to be there at the same time.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Oh, there you are.
Kim, you're coming in and out. I think you're good now. Elizabeth, you have your hand raised. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just had a
Yeah.
question. I know on some of the AgLanta sites, like Celeste, who's on this call, and I had a talk earlier this week, and there is a general feeling that, we're very used to at the Food Forest and at a lot of our sites having, 1,000 or so volunteers moving through 3 or 4 volunteer days, like on a given Saturday at sites. And right now, on the AgLanta sites, we've chosen for safety to kind of put a pause on all of our volunteers. And I was just wondering how the garden groups on here are feeling about kind of maintenance and the workload. And I just was interested in hearing about other sites.
Does anybody have anything to share on that subject?
This is Annie Moore. I do the volunteer coordinator role for Historic Westside Gardens. I'm going to actually call some of my contacts and see, is there a way, because they all canceled all the way up and through, I want to say August. So I'm going to call them and see, is there a way that we maybe could do staggered days, if maybe, like maybe one day only 3 or 4 people come, because it is rough if we don't have those volunteers. So I haven't really figured out how to do it, but maybe we have 2 or 3 people, and then there's another shift, and we just do it all day.
Thanks, Annie. Good to hear. Is that all on this topic before we move to the next thing? Anybody else want to add anything? All right. So Gil, you have a question for everyone. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to pick up on what Rosario was talking about. We are going to be there for at least few months in this situation of distancing, mask, limitation. People are looking for food. The food that they can get today is mostly charitable. If they have a grocery store around them, that's okay. And the food that they are getting is what there is, which is not fresh produce. So we are all in this conversation producers. My question is, how are we going to address, when we already have more produce, that at least part of what we are going to do is donated? Because I understand for some of the people, it's part of a certain income or building the sustainability of the community garden, the farm. So how do we intend to add some nutrition to the lack of nutrition that will have consequences if you, for 3 months, are going to be canned and processed food? How do we intend to address that for an exit of 2 or 3 months from now? Because people will want to grow food, but not everybody will grow food.
It's too much for me to try to grasp, so.
That's a great question, Gil. If anyone is not speaking, if you could keep yourselves on mute by pressing the mute button or pressing *6 if you're on the phone. Does anyone have a response to Gil's question? I think it's a good one, and it's kind of a larger system question.
Fred, do you want to give a little background on Plant a Row and some strategies that you've employed in the past?
Certainly. Somewhat in response to that. So the Plant a Row for the Hungry program, a lot of the community gardeners that are on the phone, I think, participated in that program of growing more food than they need for personal consumption, and distributing it out to people in need, usually through the network of food pantries, community kitchens, and shelters that we have in the area. It's very easy to donate fresh produce. Most of the folks that, most of the organizations that serve people in need are very happy to get fresh, local, high nutrition value food. And I know from my own personal experience, it's very gratifying when you when you're dropping food off at the food bank and the folks that are there picking up food are taking it out of your hands before you can even get it up onto the shelves. I mean, there's definitely there are a lot of people out there that recognize the value. I think it's just so universally known now that you know, your diet affects these long-term health outcomes, and it's very important to keep eating the right kind of food, even in situations like this where it's hard to get to a grocery store. I certainly encourage any gardener out there who has the ability to grow extra and share it out to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
This is Amy with Foodwell. I have a question in regard to that, Fred. Somebody earlier had mentioned that some food pantries, they said food banks, but I think they meant food pantries, are closed. And I had heard that somewhere else. So is that going to bring an extra challenge of distributing Plant a Row for the Hungry produce? And how might we address that if that is the case?
You know, I've heard some of that anecdotally. I think there are food pantries, as we know, in the faith community that are largely supported by seniors who are at particular risk during this period of influenza. And I have heard, I wouldn't have a list or anything, but I have heard that some of the pantries that are operated mainly by seniors have closed down for the health of the volunteers. I think residential programs, however, are generally still taking donations. And as far as the gardeners go, as far as like from my personal experience, harvesting food and dropping it off, most of the residential programs are open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And so they can, whenever it's convenient for you to drop off the donation, there is somebody there who is able to accept that donation. So the church food pantries are probably the ones that are suspending activity at this time. But I think a lot of the residential programs, and you can access that by dialing United Way 211. And just give them your zip code. They'll give you a list of charities in your area that would be convenient for you to drop food off at.
So Fred, this is Erica, kind of within MPUS, I can speak specifically to where our churches are our food pantries. They have shut down, so that's a food access point that is unavailable in most of our under-resourced communities. It's the faith-based churches that provide that resource. And so we are seeing requests through our wellness check-in of access to fresh foods as a request of those that we've been checking in on. And so our question was, is it safe for us to just physically, as you were just mentioning, dropping things off on doorsteps or hanging them on mailboxes, and folks can pick them up as a way of getting things directly delivered?
Great, thank you, Erica. Yarrow, you had your hand up, but it's down now. I just want to make sure that you didn't want to add anything to this topic.
What I wanted to add is like loosely related. I don't have to take up much time with it, but just wanted to put out to the group that I've been interested to know if there's anyone in the city doing like food preservation kinds of trainings, like freezing, canning, that kind of thing, that are really simple. That's something that I'd like to start offering to some of our growers so they can preserve some of their food for their families. If you do have a resource, I mean, just feel free to contact me or put it in the chat.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, please, I do encourage people to put things in the chat if you have topics that you want to know more about, or if you have resources to share with everybody. And I will repeat for people on the call, Fred said you can go through United Way 211 to figure out local sites where you can drop off food donations. And I'll go to Elizabeth now. You have your hand up.
Flannery had actually given me a tool that I was wondering if it could help, and it's the food banks. Like you can text if you're hungry, and I was trying to look up the thing. I'll put it in the chat box. But do you know about that, Fred? And I was wondering if that sort of text electronic app could be used also for figuring out how to drop off food. or if anybody knew that.
I mean, Amy Hudson could probably answer that better than I can, but they do have online resources at www.acfp.org to locate community food resources in your neighborhood. It's all mapped out, and that is good. I think that and 211 are both viable options.
Okay, I'm gonna put in what Flannery had sent me in the chat box. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Fred and Elizabeth. So we've got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to make sure we had time for participants to ask specific questions to our host organizations. Before I do that, hosts, is there anything else that you wanted to get feedback on from this group right now? You're welcome to go ahead and just ask.
This is Kim. I think, you know, what we want to know is, as we kind of map out the gardens that we are going to deliver resources to, whether it's access to compost or support for a work day to prepare, you know, for planting, we just want to get a sense of how many gardens need that support. And especially in the next few weeks when planting is so critical, how we can mobilize resources. I heard seedlings. I'm going to do some research on that piece as well. But I think what we want to make sure is we can hit as many community gardens as possible in the next few weeks, because we want to, as most of you have said, we want to continue to help our growers grow during this time. And so that would be my question, is if there's a community garden in need, we would love to hear from you, and we would be ready to support you in ways that we can do.
So Kim, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you for support after this call?
Mm-hmm. So Fred, we're going to use our gardens@foodwellalliance.org email for any of those requests. So these could be direct requests of needs. So it's gardens@foodwellalliance.org.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. So Kayla, I think we can go to the next couple slides. We have some resources that we want to share with you all. So before we start talking about that, I just want to take any final questions for our host organizations, and then we'll let you know what's coming up and we'll wrap it up. And please do continue to use the chat to make suggestions, give resources, etc. So just briefly, I will say some upcoming things from Park Pride. We're hosting monthly park meetings, which we had always hosted in person. Now they are on Zoom. So you're welcome to join those if you would like to. The next one for May is on Wednesday, May 13th from 6 to 7:30. Again, that's on Zoom, and you can find that on Park Pride's online calendar at parkpride.org/events. We'll be talking about our Nature for All initiative next month, and how we can sort of safely enjoy the benefits of nature right now. So please feel free to join us for that. Kayla, take us to the next slide. So Kim and Fred, if you want to talk about what FoodWell is offering, right? Oh, actually, we're going to AgLanta. Go back to the AgLanta slide. Sorry, everyone. So we're going to hear from AgLanta what they have coming up in the way of resources and other opportunities. And Elizabeth, go ahead and
okay.
While we get this out.
Right now, we had partnered with Global Growers a few years ago on AgLanta infrastructure. So if you go to AgLanta or Global Growers, you can find, you can download free infrastructure kits and movies about how to create the hand washing stations that Yarrow was speaking to. And Yarrow is also in Global Growers, I just feel like has taken it to a new level, and I'm just so appreciative of their leadership. I think they could give some really great webinars on this. And then we have regular monthly grower Skillshare and training, and sometimes it's Mike McCord sharing something, or sometimes it's Maurice, but everybody is welcome to join that, and it's usually the first Monday of the month from 6 to 7 p.m. And similar to this, but usually with a component of it that has something on soil or something on speaking at MPUs or organizing. So you all are welcome to join those and continue these conversations.
Awesome, thanks Elizabeth. And then FoodWell, you have some resources and upcoming opportunities as well. And thanks Kayla for navigating this PowerPoint. I'm taking us out of order. Go ahead, Kim and Fred.
Well, I'll just mention, we just made a delivery. I think it was about, I don't know, maybe 50 gardens of a 1 cubic yard of compost. That was a grant opportunity that was prior to COVID. We want to make that available to any garden that needs it. So if you are in need of compost, that's something that you can access from us and request from us, and we will make that delivery. And then Fred, do you want to talk about some of the work days? We've hired a few growers to support us during this time as we try and reach all of you as we can during this month and this critical time. And Fred, do you want to talk about what that work would look like?
Sure, just very briefly. We would like to replace community work days with a lot of hands to socially distanced work days with a lot of power tools. So if your garden just needs to get seed ready, reach out to us. We'll help you get it there, so that you can you don't miss the prime planting season for lack of volunteers. So reach out, we'll get in there pretty fast.
And Fred, is that gardens@foodwellalliance.org where they should reach out to you for that?
That would be the best place, yes.
Great. So there's one more slide. Here we go. FoodWell, if you want to talk about some of the upcoming webinars that will hopefully be informed by this conversation for everybody.
Well, Elizabeth actually mentioned it. I think we're still, this listening session was a way for us to figure out what are some of those themes that are bubbling up for gardens, across the board. And I think Elizabeth mentioned that, Global Growers has really, and other organizations too, but they've really been able to hone in on how to support with tactical things, including, the wash stations and how to clean tools and things like that. So we were considering, based off of this call, if it would be helpful to do, a series of webinars that kind of, that can be recorded, of course, and accessed later, but to if you're having any questions on how to do some of these things at your own garden. And I think, something else that we're considering, FoodWell Alliance, as an alliance, we've been bringing people together across the food system for the last 4 weeks, talking organizations from farmers markets to our urban farm support organizations, Georgia Organics. I mean, there's about 15 organizations across the food system that we've been meeting with every week to try and coordinate our collective response. And I think this idea actually came from Michael from Park Pride, but what would it look like if we actually did a sort of a state of the system webinar for anyone to access, to better understand what are some of these hyper-local responses that are happening on the ground. So that is something that's also in the works. We're kind of taking temperature of whether or not that would be of interest.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. So Kayla, if you take us to our last slide, I'm going to close us out. I want to say thank you so much to everyone who joined us. Thank you to our co-hosts, AgLanta and FoodWell Alliance. Sounds like we're going to hear from Global Growers soon as well. So very excited for what's going to come from this conversation. We really appreciate your input. This is helpful for us to figure out, how we're going to support this community going forward. So please feel free to stay in touch with us. You've got our email addresses on the slides. We put them in the chats. And if you're on the phone, just go to our websites, our respective websites, FoodWell Alliance, AgLanta, and Park Pride. Our staff information is on those websites, and you're welcome to reach out to us with ideas, and if you need support, we'll try to help you make that happen. So thank you again. Please stay safe. Let us know what you need, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. We're officially closed out. Oh, go ahead.
I have such a quick question. So when we leave, how do I access all this information that's on the chat?
So
is that still available? I mean, when, you know, because I wasn't writing it down while you guys were going. So when you stop now, is there a place to access this? That's just a question, because I'm